All set? Hey, good morning, everyone. We're gonna start our meeting with like we normally do and do the pledge of allegiance. I'm gonna ask Robert to lead us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the March 16th Rockingham County Commissioners meeting. I'm gonna do the attendance. I see Sheriff Maceos, Catherine Mann from the Sheriff's Office, see Captain Stacy on Zoom. I see Jason Smith, Jason Henry, and that's all I see right now. In the room, we have Chuck Nickerson, Robin Bernier, Drew Gates, Allison Kowalski, Layla, the commissioners, Commissioner Godu, Commissioner Boyle, and myself.
Morning.
So good morning, everybody. We're gonna do some openings. Painting long-term care facility kitchen.
I move to authorize the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services to review, evaluate the proposals and return with a recommendation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Not on the motion. Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
Commissioner Godu,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Ascom wireless upgrade.
I move to award the proposal for Ascom wireless upgrade to Carousel Industries for an amount not to exceed $179,210.04 as recommended by the Senior Director of Facilities Planning and IT and the IT Manager.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, on the motion, Commissioner Godu,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyle, you have a
I
question?
just had a question. Is this pretty much as anticipated or, yeah, okay. I was just, and
Commissioner
how
Godu?
many, did you guys get a lot of proposals or
We did not, we only got.
the
them
cares? Okay, yeah, there's just not a lot of, I mean, I think that's consistent with what we're seeing across all, all departments really, like we're getting 1, 2, very few bidding, but it's just because of the similar supply and demand and staffing, right? And fulfilling contracts. So, okay. That's it. Thank you.
So on the motion, Commissioner Godu said yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I vote yes.
Thank you.
Fuel contract.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move to award, I didn't think, to award the proposal for fuel contract to Hafner's Energy Group for a period of April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024 for a cost of $3.049 per gallon for heating oil and a cost of $3.399 per gallon for diesel fuel as recommended by the Senior Director of Facilities Planning and IT.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a little
Godu?
discussion on
Yeah.
this. This looks like a great price. And I'm wondering, as part of our operations, can we offer this price for home heating oil to people who qualify? You know, like we had, we've been giving out rental assistance and that
Oh.
money is dwindling down. But I'm just, maybe logistically it's not possible, but, being able to offer residents a discount that's similar to our discount because they've got to be paying at least $1 more per gallon right now, right?
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't
there's
know if
any-
that's even a,
I mean, the CAP programs have something similar to that. They buy in bulk. But I mean,
can we just look at that?
Yeah,
Just-
sure. At one time, years ago, we had, other entities that were buying fuel and electricity, like Conservation District, for example. And we would actually have to beseech our vendor to say, please, will you extend your cost to conservation? They're on our property. So they're a little tight about it, frankly, but I mean, it can't hurt to ask. We'll give them a call. We've had Hafner's for a number of years now, and they've been a wonderful vendor.
yeah,
So we can ask.
I'm just looking,
Sure.
I think giving the relief to people as a discount
Absolutely.
on
Yeah.
heating oil
Good
might be better than
Worth
just
asking.
free rent,
Sure.
you know, in some regards.
And to your point, it's like nothing ventured, nothing gained, but it's a very creative idea. So,
Just a thought.
yeah, it's a great idea.
further
The other
discussion?
thing, Commissioner, just so you know, what we do with the fuel RFPs, we invite the towns in Rockingham to participate with us if they like. East Kingston quite often will send us, because we send them numbers of tanks and all that, East Kingston, Martha Roy over in Newington, a number of the towns, we include their data so that they get quotes from the vendors as well, and they kind of participate in the
It's-
competition.
It's kind of like a quasi, what we're seeing with electricity, the like
Yes.
co-op electricity where, I mean, it's
Anything we
Yeah.
can do.
yeah,
Community power.
community power, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
really a great, you're like at the forefront. You're at the forefront of those, like, because that concept of the community power is really taking hold. So this is a, fuel version of that. Great.
On the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
Commissioner Godu,
Yes,
I vote yes. Skilled nursing facility mock survey.
I move to award the proposal for skilled nursing facility mock survey to Polaris Group for an amount not to exceed $11,949 as recommended by the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services.
second,
Motion made and seconded, any discussion?
I do have,
Yeah, Commissioner Coyle.
two things. One, I think that we did a mock survey last year. And I think that was really just a comment, which is that was really helpful in preparing for the survey by the state. We were able to like address a few things, and I think that contributed to our deficiency free finding. Jason, how did this price, for some reason, is this consistent with what we paid last year, or has it seems like it may have gone up a little?
It has gone up. So LNA Health Careers did not submit a proposal for this.
Okay,
And so they, I don't know if they did not have the bandwidth. I know that she's had some of her instructors leave or more dedicated to LNA training programs and phlebotomy, and now she's teaching an LPN class. So she didn't submit a proposal, and I think it was I think it was around $5,000. So, but we also held an LNA class here on site, and we were doing a couple other projects with them. So maybe they gave us like best guaranteed pricing last year with that.
okay. And do we have enough then because I looked at it, I was like, oh, I couldn't remember exactly, but it seemed a little higher. But my question is, do we have enough in the budget for it?
We do. I have $15,000 that is budgeted for mock survey.
Great. Okay, well.
We're under that, so that's good. Further discussion, if not, on the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu?
yes,
I vote yes. Motion number 2,
I move to approve a one additional day to conduct an infection control risk assessment to be held in conjunction with the mock survey at a cost not to exceed $1,550 as recommended by the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services.
second,
motion's been made and seconded, any discussion on this piece? If not, on the motion, Commissioner Godu?
yes,
Commissioner Coyle?
Yes,
I vote yes. All right, we're on to consent agenda.
I move to approve the March 9th, 2023 public and non-public minutes.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded, any discussion at all on those? If not, on the motion, Commissioner Coyle?
Yes,
Commissioner Godu?
yes,
I vote yes. Payroll.
I move to approve the payroll expense and then the amount of $1,308,199.44 for the period ending March 11th, 2023.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion, if not, on the motion, Commissioner Godu?
yes,
Commissioner Coyle?
Yes,
And I vote yes. Okay. Reports, I'm gonna start real quick, and I just want to acknowledge, Michelle Schmidt and Donna Rowe, for being featured in New Hampshire Magazine. I think that's quite the honor, and, very happy for those two. They're both very dedicated people, and, I'm more than happy to recognize them and good work. I think Michelle is Michelle with you, Jason? Okay,
No, not this morning.
okay. The other thing is, it is Administrator's Day, and I want to wish Jason Smith a happy Administrator's Day. I was fortunate enough to be elected 2 years ago. Jason was brand new. And I gotta tell you, hands down, Jason's personality is just, I mean, you're such a nice guy, Jason, that people like being around you, and you get stuff done, and you're very professional. You know your job, and the
At
amazing.
work. Outside of work could be a different story.
I will tell you, I'm very impressed because any administrator that runs a nursing home the size of ours through COVID time and is able to bring us from a 2-star to a 5-star speaks volumes, and we are so fortunate to have you, Jason. I'll let the other commissioners, when they can
Yeah.
also speak in too. But I want to wish you all the best on Administrators Day. We just had that huge snowstorm, and I just want to, I know everybody did a fantastic job, but there was one person that kind of really went out of his way and really helps us each and every time we have a major snowstorm like that, and that's Mike Evans. I'll talk to the commissioners a little bit later to see if we can do a little bit something to recognize that, because he goes above and beyond. And I
Really?
understand he's more than happy to help out, so I think maybe we should acknowledge him too.
Right. And I know he helps, not just, I mean, the storms are great, but he's helped with a ton with facilities, just,
Anything we need.
he's just,
awesome.
Yeah,
He's
that's
great.
awesome,
It's
that's
just-
good.
And he's cheerful and willing, and he always says anything you need, he's great.
That's
He
good.
really
just
is.
that team spirit. I
Yeah,
mean, really,
it's
it's like, it's really nice. And that type of, I always find that people like that, it becomes infectious, right?
Exactly.
It really does.
Yep.
It really sets the, an impact on others. So
Yeah,
it's really nice that we have someone like that.
and then lastly, I just want to acknowledge Kathy Stacy, who is also a select woman in Salem, won her reelection, so congratulations, Kathy. And I want to congratulate Commissioner Godu for winning a seat back onto the Budget Committee in Salem, so congratulations to you two.
They have to put up with me another 3 years.
Well, I'm sure you'll do a good job. So that's it for me for now. I'll go to Commissioner Godu.
I have no
All
report.
set? Okay, Commissioner Foil.
All right, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, I would start by echoing some of your sentiments, Commissioner Chiricello. I mean, just, it's nice this week that, I mean, we are celebrating first, Michelle and Donna Rowe for their great, the award that's like for excellence in nursing. And I feel like one of the reasons, that's just a reflection of the total, like, and of course, they are specifically wonderful, but it takes a village, and I think Michelle even said it takes a village, and that's all the people that you know, sort of report to Donna and Michelle, and that's all the staff, but also the direction that they get, which leads right into the Long-Term Care Administrators Week celebration. And I think that, did you want to do this?
No, I'm gonna allow
Okay.
you to sign that, so you're the liaison, so I
The-
wish you to sign it.
Certificate of appreciation here, maybe I can bring it in this. This is a certificate of appreciation for you, Jason.
Thank you,
Well, sir,
commissioners. I appreciate that.
We
That's
appreciate-
fantastic.
and we appreciate you because, you know, your work again, helps all the employees, but also all the residents and Rockingham County. So thank you
Wow.
for that.
Thank you, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by great leaders and commissioners. But you're right, it takes a village, and I'm blessed to be with an amazing team here every day and guiding them and leading them. So I appreciate all of the support and the initiative you have provided. So thank you so much.
Great. And on a happy note, it seems like our COVID cases have sort of, I think both at the jail and in long-term care, we sort of went through a little bit of a peak, and now we're coming back down, which is nice. This week we only had one staff member at the nursing home test positive, and they had no resident contact. We have no positive residents, so that's great. It's also the 20th anniversary month for the Ernest Barca Assisted Living Community celebration. And so we're gonna have a celebration in the spring, so that'll be a nice thing. Well, Chuck is over in finance. Things are still extraordinarily busy. I think all the department heads will report, and as well as Chuck, that it's budget season. And so there's a lot of work in preparation of the budget. On top of that, we have everything going on with trying to transition emergency rental assistance, and we're going to have a proposal before us shortly about transitioning with emergency rental assistance. And so the work continues on, as well as all the UKG stuff. So
I
The
was gonna
work
ask
goes
Chuck,
on.
I have to ask Chuck a real quick question.
Well,
Chuck, when you go to sleep at night and you dream, do you like dreaming numbers or?
When I do finally sleep, sometimes.
Okay.
I know.
Sometimes numbers keep you from sleeping, so.
Alright.
And over at the jail, the population's at 144. There's no COVID there, so that's also very good. We have 3 new COs start this week, and you know, everyone's busy with budget. Congratulations as well to Kathy and to Commissioner Godu, so. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to the change order request for Adamson
Yep.
Industries.
I move to approve a change order request for Adamson Industries for an amount not to exceed $8,585 as recommended by the High Sheriff.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question. Go ahead. Do you want to go?
No, I
You
was
go
gonna
first.
say, I might be able to help fill
Go,
in.
yeah,
So the reason why this was originally thought of to be on the commissioner's office list as a change order request is because this is in regards to the K-9 unit that had been totaled, so the insurance proceeds come in as a credit to the insurance expense line. Related expenses get expensed through that same insurance expense line. So part of this cost, brought on because of the totaling of the vehicle is to have repurposing one of the Ford Explorer units that's coming in to be the K-9 unit, but you need new outfit equipment that was anticipated. That expense would be occurred because related to an accident that we got a claim reimbursement on.
Yeah.
That related expense would be within the general government insurance line, and usually the commissioners oversee things happening with that line.
Right.
So that's why it's
And then-
on this portion of the agenda.
Okay, I'm not gonna.
Sorry,
No, I was gonna say something, but I'm not gonna say anything.
and then the grand total really is that 17,170, but the change order amount itself is
That part of it,
8585.
Further questions?
so when I was reading through, it says the proposal was, the amount is after are considered for equipment already purchased for the original upset fit. So were that equipment already installed, or it was never it hadn't been installed yet?
So what
No,
happens?
that's for the second K-9 unit, that we got approved for. So that initial amount was purchased through the Stanton Foundation grant, but since we're using the same vendor, that's why we have to up the total amount for the vendor. So obviously, the new
Okay.
amount will come out of the insurance. The old amount is part of the Stanton Foundation for the upfit of the new K-9.
Okay, so we're doing 2. One is for the new K-9 vehicle and the other is the change order for the one that got totaled.
Correct.
Got it. Sorry, I missed
All
that.
right, that's all right. Further questions?
It was a confusing one on.
I didn't totally get it, but now I do. Thank you.
On the
I'm
motion.
Slow on the uptake.
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
Commissioner Godu,
yes,
and I vote yes. Motion number 2.
I move to amend the proposal award for K-9 grant vehicle upfit equipment awarded to Adamson Industries on February 16, 2023 in the amount of $8,585 to include the amount on the change order request for a total of $17,170.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussions on this piece?
So just to clarify, Chuck, so this, and I'm sorry, that I'm slow on the uptake, but, does that 8,000, will we pull that 8,000 from that's the insurance?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
the change order piece is only for, again, for repurposing one of the Ford Explorers coming in, and this is the upfit cost for the one that was total.
But will we get that cost? Are we gonna recoup?
It is, that's what I mean. that it
That's
is.
all
So that's
recouped.
why the proposal is for the change order amount to go
Yeah.
against the insurance line.
Okay,
Because that's where the reimbursement for what they'll do,
okay,
17,000 some odd, will be, or is already deposit or is coming from Primex. It will be going into that line, so we'll have a credit to be offset by, expenses for this, and I think there'll be some expenses too for prepping the unit that was totaled, for taking out the equipment out from there. There'll be some expenses associated with that. That
okay,
will also be expenses that will go against the insurance line. It may not rise to anything for any sort of bid process or whatever, but they would go against it. So we might end up with a net positive. And we are trying to hopefully add on and this will probably be a future thing, add on another vehicle to the current lease that we're trying to put together, a capital lease, to get an immediate replacement vehicle.
Okay.
But the sheriff's office can talk more. to that.
Yes, yeah, I think we had some discussion about, but is there any way to take out the upfit equipment out of the total vehicle? Like,
I mean, they have to take out stuff anyways, but I don't think it'd be of a quality to just go
You
to a
can't-
new one.
well, yeah, I
But
didn't know if like
Sheriff's
depending
office
on
can
where,
answer how
where
that
it
goes.
got struck.
Well, so
Yeah.
yeah, Commissioner, so what happened is, so that model year car, you can't, particular K9 equipment can't be outfitted in any new vehicles. But, and I am worried about the structural integrity of the cage itself, because where the vehicle was hit, it did break a couple partitions. But we have to pull a bunch of other equipment out there, like laptop mounts, rifle mounts, radar mounts, and all that other stuff that has to be pulled out of the vehicle that can be reused for those items, so we don't have to repurchase those items.
Okay.
All
That's it.
set? On the motion, Commissioner Godu,
Yes,
Mr. Coyle,
Yes,
I vote yes. Engineering and maintenance, IT services,
I move to approve a change order request for Novus Group for an amount not to exceed $31,500 as recommended by the Senior Director of Facilities Planning and IT.
motion's been made,
second,
seconded, discussion. Not on the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu,
yes,
and I vote yes. Out-of-state conference approval,
I move to approve an out-of-state conference and travel for a finance office employee CN to attend the 2023 Tyler Technologies User Conference held May 7th through the 10th, 2023 in San Antonio, Texas, for an amount estimated cost of $3,269 as recommended by the Senior Director of Finance.
second,
motion's been made and seconded, is there any discussion? I just have one quick
Happy-
question, Chuck, this won't, I mean, it's 3 days, I know that. That's not gonna interfere with any budget.
I've already lined up that if there's any budget subcommittee meetings on that Monday, because generally speaking, they're Monday and Friday, because they're in houses in session during, Tuesday,
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday. So I've already talked to Katie Casey and Jesse Connery, they'll cover any subcommittee meetings that, the executive committee happens to schedule for that Monday.
Okay. All right, on the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
I'm happy for you. Yes.
Commissioner Godu,
yes,
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
This proposed policy procedure changes for the Rockingham County Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
I move to approve the proposed changes to the Rockingham County Emergency Rental Assistance Program as listed on the memo from the Senior Director of Finance dated March 14th, 2023.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded, is there discussion? From either commission, Commissioner Coyle?
No, you can go ahead
So,
first.
sorry, I just want to add,
Yeah.
so this kind of memorializes some of the items that we talked about last week and goes a little bit further. Again, the hope is that this will get us through, definitely April and then hopefully a good way into May. And what we'll do, I'll work with Layla and we'll get the website also updated to reflect changes. And as you see, we've got a mailing thing ready to go to all those 10 applicants and landlords that have email addresses. So we'll get the word out right away.
Yeah.
And Joe will obviously talk to individuals on the phone too, who don't have email addresses.
So, yeah, that was a concern that I have, I had to notice these people. I think you covered it very well. The letter is great. I think the proposal is really good to try to get as much push for the remaining dollars that we have. The benefit side of that is it's ending in the summertime versus the winter. I don't want to end the program in the winter, especially on something like that. I mean, that's the only silver lining that I can see, but I like your proposal. And I'll let other commissioners chime in if they want, but
no, I agree, I looked at the proposal, I think it's well
So-
thought out,
okay. All right, so on the motion, Commissioner Godu,
yes,
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Employee retention engagement, ARPA project funds.
I move to approve the purchase of various gift cards as identified on the memo from Human Resources utilizing the category 2.35 of the ARPA project funds as recommended by the Senior Director of Human Resources.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded, discussion,
I have discussion.
Commissioner Godu.
I'm just a little concerned of who has received these gift cards and such in the past and who's gonna get them now. My concern is that have we made sure that we're not repeating gifts? and that it's being spread out among, as widely among the departments as possible, because, you know, I don't know.
It goes to every department head every single month. We ask them to submit somebody's name in that they want to recognize. We have a spreadsheet so that it shows us from 1 month all the way back when we started, who has received it. And if we do see some repeat ones that come in, we notify the division director that they need to pick somebody else.
So we haven't repeated, and well, that's continues to be the policy.
Correct.
And this is where the department heads do a great job of knowing their staff and, you know, making sure it gets there's recognition.
And some of the smaller departments, if an employee is recognized and they say no, then it may be a potential repeat of something, because some departments are only 9 people, some departments are like 20. And if we go through it, we try to at least recognize them differently.
So, are you proportionately spreading it out too? Because if you go to the sheriff or corrections or nursing home, they've got many people in the department, and then the other departments really are quite a bit smaller.
We give, the nursing home gets 2, due to the size. But we do 1 for each of the other departments. We do 2 to the, nursing home, and then assisted living is separated out as well because of their own department, but under the umbrella of the nursing home, we do that.
Okay, further discussion? If not, on the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
the country view is excellent for.
We are we're a little bit problematic because we are trying to recognize each town. And in some towns, I'm just gonna let you know, we're finding that there's not something there.
Right,
Right.
So
right.
I just,
Yeah.
you know, when we
Well-
get to when we get a little bit more of a silo, we'll probably go back to the commissioners to say, how would you like
Yeah.
us to proceed?
So let me just point out one thing, one extra thing too. So this is really, it does 2 things. A,
Mhm.
it helps with retention, and our employee side of things, but it also, you know, we instructed everyone to say, use these certificates for local business. So we're spreading that ARPA money through local businesses in Rockingham County. We're recognizing employees, so it's double duty. I think
Yeah.
it was a really smart thing to do, and it's worked really well, so.
I agree, and doing it just I think to your point, it is, and I do think, Allison, to your credit, you've done a really good job about being creative in your approach on where we're getting the gift cards, and you and your team, you know, because, and it has been, every time we see these come forward, it's like different towns and, you know, recognition. So thank you for that, as part of fulfilling the goal of trying to infuse some of the ARPA funds back into our local establishments, so.
Yeah. Exception request 7.3 long-term care.
I move to approve an exception request to personnel policy 7-3 new appointment rates for a long-term care employee HM as recommended by the Senior Director of Human Resources.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded, discussion. If not on the motion, Commissioner Godu,
yes,
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Weather emergency,
I move to declare a weather emergency in accordance with personnel policies and procedures. Chapter 8-4 for Tuesday, March 14th, beginning 2023, beginning at 7 a.m. or the start of the first shift as defined by the department, including 3 p.m. or the start of second shift as defined by the department through 11 p.m. or the start of third shift as defined by the department, as recommended by the Senior Director of Human Resources.
motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
second,
Seconded. Any discussion on this motion? If not, on the motion. Oh, someone want to say something? there? Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Commissioner Coyle? on the
Yes.
motion? Commissioner Godu?
yes,
I vote yes. Long-term care services.
I move-
Adult medical daycare, I'm sorry.
I move to approve an adult medical daycare grant dated March 13th, 2023 to senior class for an additional client, IL, as recommended by the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion?
I'm happy to see that it's, you know, they're being utilized.
Agreed.
It's
On the
really,
motion, Commissioner Godu?
yes,
Commissioner Coyle?
yes.
And I vote yes. Line item transfer.
I move to approve a line item transfer request in the amount of 36,000 dated March 13th, 2023, as recommended by the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
This-
Not?
This is for the
Commissioner
steamer. This is like unnecessary. The steamer went down and I, just to give clarification to the, you know, board
Yeah.
that it was a unexpected repair and it's not functional and we need it.
We-
So,
We have two steamers. One of them is broken and I was planning on replacing it the next fiscal year because they could survive on one, but that one just died. So now we have nothing and I'm requesting the line item transfer so we can replace that this fiscal year.
I think 36,000 for a hot dog steam is a little excessive, Jason.
Well,
Just a joke,
we-
everybody, just a
we,
joke.
we could cook frozen vegetables in under 2 minutes at many poundage of veggies or beef. So it is a great tool to have for the chefs in the kitchen to make sure food is cooked and speedy.
and cooked, did you mention that?
And cooked.
Okay, on the motion, Commissioner Godu,
Yes,
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
and I vote yes. US Marshal Service MOU.
I move to approve the US Marshals Service Fugitive Task Force MOU and authorize the chair to sign all necessary documents as recommended by the High Sheriff.
second.
Motion been made and seconded. This is a discussion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, for those that may not have known the history of our partnership with the US Marshal Task Force, we had a deputy that was assigned to the US Marshals Task Force full-time for 12 years. When he came up on retirement last year, we just weren't in a position to place somebody full-time. We needed that full-time body back in our agency for our operational needs. The US Marshals are obviously disappointed. They reapproached us recently and asked if we had an opportunity to reconsider, and they said they were willing to, work towards some creative solutions. So again, we told them, we said, operationally, I can't give you somebody, 40 hours a week. We just can't, we have too many needs here. So we proposed an idea where we would, partner with them to allow some of our deputies that are on our warrant entry team that have a little more tactical prowess and experience, because the nature of the warrants that they go out and deal with, they're high risk. But we said, if you could create a funding mechanism that would allow to do this on overtime, so that we could use our deputy, our 40 hours a week, and you would have a pool of deputies to pull from. If you could supply overtime reimbursement that we could pay them with to do that outside of their normal duty hours. And they came out and they've never done that before. And actually, I've never seen the feds move so quickly. In under 48 hours, they said, yep, our folks have agreed to that. We'd like to try it out this year, where they're going to give us the 18,500 to carry to the end of their federal fiscal year, which ends in October. And then they'd probably be, if this successful partnership works and we can do it by providing them deputies at a as needed basis and not full time, and they can absorb the cost of that. That we'd be willing to help them. So obviously having the cost component to accept by the commissioners is why it comes before the board. There is a benefit to the sheriff's office when we have members on that task force. Over 300 of our warrants in the system do qualify as their fugitive level warrants because they are a little bit more complicated, higher risk folks. So we have an opportunity to bring those warrants to be worked by the task force and gain all the resources that they have in the additional bodies of their US Marshal agents, as well as their additional task force officers that they have. And when we had a deputy on there full time, I will say there were, in addition to them going out and executing those warrants, we did interrupt other crimes and came across other investigations. We had one incident over in Londonderry that was tied to a potential human trafficking case and some prostitution. And in addition to that, when we come across other cases where it's appropriate in this federal asset forfeiture, we get included into that.
Very good.
So is there,
Commissioner
there won't be any cost to the county? It's all covered under.
They don't cover the roll-up costs, so Kathy can probably explain that, but we do have the funds available in our grant and our outside detail line.
Yeah,
So-
so Commissioner, just to answer your question, they reimburse the salary, so just the overtime rate. They don't cover things like New Hampshire retirement or like the tax side of it, the payroll expense side.
Yeah. But that would be covered under grants?
Outside details.
Outside details.
I'm sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. And then, with respect to, are you, in terms of having warrants, are they all, federal warrants? Or do you go after state warrants too?
No, they're actually the task forces, sometime, once in a while, they bring in a federal warrant, but I would say 95 to 99% of the warrants are in-state warrants provided by the communities. So that's one of the direct benefits is we are actually working on New Hampshire warrants. And in particular, having a seat at the table, we can specifically bring our Rockingham County Superior Court warrants to the table to get worked.
Okay.
Any questions? I have a quick question for you. You mentioned that, it doesn't pay any of the retirement fees. Major, do you guys have any idea of how many hours roughly? I wouldn't hold you to an exact number, but for budgetary planning purposes, you know, do we have any idea? Because we're gonna need to put that piece into the budget.
Let me, if I can do some quick math here, I'm not as good as Chuck.
You don't have to answer me this second, but, I was just curious whether you guys had a.
I'd say approximately between 370 and 400 hours,
Okay,
is, you know, based off of what they're available to reimburse at the overtime rate. And we explained it to them, hey, once that pool of money is gone, you know, we can't revisit it, but they may look at revisiting additional amounts and follow on years, because this is the first time they've done this situation where they didn't just get somebody for the 40 hours a week plus the built-in overtime.
right. And then the other quick question I had is, the area coverage. Is this gonna be basically in our area? Is it gonna be the whole state of New Hampshire? Will it go into Massachusetts? And the only reason why I'm saying that is I'm just, you know, want to be prepared if you guys have to go into Massachusetts, if there's something happening there. You know, obviously, it's a higher level of.
Yeah. There's always the ability for it, but the US Marshals Task Force has always maintained their focus within the state of New Hampshire. I can think of some very extreme cases where over the 12 years where they may have gone out of state, and they were looking for, you know, double homicide suspects that they had tracked through the state and then they jumped the border. So then they were working, you know, with some other units and stuff like that. But one of the things that we do is that we still, once in a while, we work in partnership with the marshals at times for some of our other high risk warrants, because some of their tactical experience and, you know, operational needs. Our tactical team isn't a full SWAT team. It's a smaller entity. So sometimes we call upon them to assist us with some of our higher risk stuff, but jurisdictionally, they can go anywhere. But we explained to them that, you know, we want our focus to be, and our own Rockingham County warrants often take us to Nashua and Manchester and those communities, because the Rockingham County warrants, and then they're living over there. So our deputies go over outside of the county quite often to arrest folks.
Yeah, and I would imagine that they probably have similar type MOUs with other departments spread out.
Correct,
over jurisdictions, right? Okay. Any other questions at all? If not.
I mean, I
Commissioner
guess
Coyle?
just to the extent that I would assume we're not going into Massachusetts just because we have liability. The MOU requires us to have liability for our officers
We
participating.
do, and we have at times now with a multi-jurisdictional task force, there have been times where we have to go into Massachusetts, and we've checked with Primex, we're covered on everything. And the folks that would be participating in this, they will actually get deputized as special US deputy marshals. So they're covered under that blanket as well.
Okay, and then you feel comfortable with your overtime budget to cover this, absorb the costs? How are you gonna-
We're only gonna authorize it as the amount of funds that they've allowed.
Excellent.
Thank you.
On the motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, we're on department head updates. I'm gonna start with Kathy Stacy. I didn't want to take anything, I mean, there's some really, Kathy's has a lot of good news, but I wasn't gonna steal any thunder. I don't know if she'll make any announcement here, but anyway, Kathy,
Good morning. How is everybody?
oh, yeah,
So I wanted just to comment with regards to the gift certificates that you were speaking about earlier. And I will say that
Yeah.
Allison and her crew absolutely have done a great job, especially spreading out amongst the county. My only issue, and I don't know if Allison is aware of it, but I have spoken a couple times to Jessica about it. is asking that the ones that are the random draws that get done, that when people get them from my department, I want their names pulled because I have several that have gotten them multiple times and others that have not gotten. So, and I have a small department, so, you know, I'm sure it works differently for other departments because they have, you know, a ton of people, but I have very few and I want to make sure it gets spread out to everybody. So that's just been a concern of mine that's happened in my department. So just a heads up, just a concern. I want to thank the commissioners for allowing staff, non-essential staff to leave on Tuesday. It was treacherous out there, obviously, and it was very much appreciated because obviously you know, my staff did come in as I'm sure many other departments did as well. And it did mean a lot. That's, in all honesty, I can tell you, I don't recall another time where that happened. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Other than that, I don't have much to report except
Yeah.
an
Say it.
engagement.
Oh,
So,
Congratulations.
yes.
See, I
So,
didn't spoil your thunder.
yes, Brian's daughter was in attendance when it occurred, so, it was, I was taken by surprise. It was a nice surprise and we're pretty excited, so.
Well,
Thank you,
congratulations.
and that's pretty much my information for today. Thank you.
Big week, Kathy.
Big week for Kathy. Jason Henry.
You want me to follow up to that?
Yeah, let's see your ring.
Yeah. How about this? Happy St. Patty's Day tomorrow. Enjoy that day.
Absolutely.
Not much report here, just working on the budget. Couple things to talk about later in public. Good news, just got an email that replacement cruiser is in and I'm gonna work on scheduling delivery. And then we'll go from there about, we took everything out of past cruisers, see what we can get into this one, and then go from there. What else I need to either purchase or not. We'll see what makes into the vehicle. And beyond that, that's it, short and sweet.
All right. Sheriff Maceos.
Good morning.
Captain Mann. Morning.
Well, want to rephrase what Kathy said. Thank you for letting these people go home at noontime. But I tell you, Tuesday was a busy day for dispatch, and I want to just personally thank all the dispatchers. I mean, these people work very hard. I mean, from 12 to 8 in the morning, we did 184 calls, picked up from 8 to 4 to 293 calls. And from 4 to midnight was 197 calls. So they were extremely busy over there. Another thing that's going on is the major has a meeting on Monday with Congressman Pappas' office. He's going to Zoom into his office on the 5 consoles and the state connection. That's about it. At least the sun's out, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, Sheriff. Major, do you have anything, or Captain Mann, while I've got you there?
No, just we really appreciate you giving us the heads up on that community funding project. And like I said, I got the list of the other projects that have been submitted. So they're giving us an opportunity so I'm going to be presenting to Congressman Pappas's staff and board on the importance of these projects to the community to get them in the consideration for that funding mechanism.
Yeah, that's gonna save, I tell you, that's gonna save the county a lot of money. We're
Good.
talking a lot of money on these projects, which it's gonna be great when we get into the new building too.
Yeah. Did we talk about that last week?
We did.
Okay.
It was brought up and
Yeah,
then.
and yeah, I submitted I submitted the letter of support from all 3 commissioners, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that'll be very helpful, considering our projects represent 37 towns and communities.
Right. It should weigh pretty well. So hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed and hopefully we can get that. That'd be great.
No, that was a great move. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's go to Jason Smith.
Hello, commissioners. Let's see here. So Commissioner Coyle mentioned that we have had little to no COVID in the nursing home and assisted living, and that's great news. We only had one staff member that was positive this week that did not affect any of the residents. Further good news is the transmission level has decreased to substantial, so masks can come off in meeting rooms without residents and in offices again. Let's see here. There was an article that was published in the Seacoast Online about the assisted living community. And so we received some nice press and feedback from that article from family members and residents. They were happy to see that and their community being recognized. We are still having some symptoms, some GI symptoms over in our assisted living, not in the nursing home, thankfully, with some GI, but not affecting any residents, some staff. It's also coincides with the storm we had the other day, so we're looking into that a little bit more closely. And then, of course, Donna Rowe, our nurse practitioner here for the nursing home and the assisted living community, and Michelle Melanson-Schmidt, the director of nurses for the nursing home, are both being recognized for their advanced practice nurse and hospice palliative care category with the New Hampshire Magazine in conjunction with the New Hampshire Association to be honored in Manchester. They will actually be coming on site and taking a picture and doing a bio on them. So it's nice to have a long-term care leadership members recognized among their peers. There was several letters of recommendation and endorsement that was submitted by her fellow teammates and myself. And so we are looking forward to supporting her during that event. This week, we also have had 3 residents pass away. These were expected deaths under hospice care. We've also have some people taking some time off due to personal leaves and or out sick for other reasons. So we're just shifting some things around. That's why Michelle wasn't able to be here with us today. She's out on the floors at the moment. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Jason. I'm gonna go to Allison.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So,
Sorry, I caught you by surprise.
yeah, of course. We're just busy. We're gearing up for benefit open enrollment. We're actually dealing with a broker to get preparation for a board presentation. We're working on the policy we sent over to legal on the social media app on TikTok. We did send that out. I'm just waiting for that to get back. And I've been preoccupied, so the staff have been running on my behalf, and I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you.
Very good. Jude,
Good morning.
good morning.
I apologize. I sent my briefing to Commissioner Cherichello yesterday and I failed to copy it out. I will do it
Okay.
right after the meeting. It's, you know, business as usual, but I'm happy to send it along. I did make a note about Michael Evans. He really was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And cheerful and willing and all that, like he is every time. He's actually gonna help us put the new roof on the delegation building. He's got an able helper in the building with him right now, so when the weather breaks and before the helper goes home, they're gonna give us a hand with the roof.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we already have the materials in. We're working on all of the delegation projects right now. Cheryl's throwing a couple of monkey wrenches at me, so I need to make sure I understand exactly what she wants, and then we're gonna get going on that.
What are you gonna do with the 1973 refrigerator?
Would you like it?
No, I
Go
don't
really
want it.
well in your
No.
1903 kitchen.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't want it.
we're also working like budget. Chuck and Ben did a really nice training session yesterday that was very helpful, and all of my staff enjoyed it, and it kind of helped us all feel like we're going together in the right direction. There have been some server issues down at the jail with the security. Robin's been working on it with Honeywell. They've had to default keys. They're functioning. Keys are kind of a bother. And we're hoping to make progress on that. So Robin's also looking into what we can do to make sure the system is more robust in the next upcoming budget. So we've been working on that. We have some long awaited jobs coming up that we issued weeks and weeks and weeks ago from RFP, day tank and boiler room. Travel auger. I think we put the travel auger out to bid in June. It's scheduled to be done, and this month and next month. So we're excited about that. Our most recently hired shift tech has given his notice. Allison and I have talked about it. It was someplace he had also interviewed for when he came here. So he's leaving for, he tells me about 30% more money, no weekends, no nights. So it's what we're up against, but you know, we'll see where it goes. US EPA is recommending a new standard for PFAS in drinking water. Follow that, I reached out to GZA Environmental, who's been working on the drill yard project with us. We're waiting to see, they're supposed to be scheduling a webinar in the next week or so. So I'm hoping to get my water chief on board with that as well. The
Yeah.
standards are, I believe, lower than what we can test for in New Hampshire right now. So, I'm not sure exactly how that would be enforceable, frankly, but. we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I think they're
That's-
moving. As I interpret it, it's kind of, we have very strict standards in New Hampshire. It's like
Already,
finding a
yeah.
piece of sand in a swimming pool.
Exactly right.
That's
Exactly
the
right.
comparison, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
It's gonna be tricky, yeah.
It's gonna be really tricky, and everything that I've heard, even from DES, is that they can't test to that low level, so how can they enforce it?
right,
But
right.
we'll see what happens. We're on it. As far as the drill yard goes, our supplemental site investigation has been in front of DES for a few months now. We're waiting for their review. They'll give us feedback on the report and tell us what they expect us to do going forward. So I'm anxious to get that in case it's gonna impact our budget request for next year. But we wait until they're ready, and if they have staffing issues, they have staffing issues, so we'll have to wait for that. Permitting on the new building is going forward. The wetlands comments that I talked about a couple of weeks ago should all be back to them by this Friday. They wanted, you know, additional maps and such. All that should be done to them by Friday. New Hampshire Fish and Game has yet to comment. We're still kind of going back and forth with them. But next week I will bring you a Eastern Meadowlark management plan. I have a great action shot, but I can't put my hands
Wasn't he,
on
wasn't he one of the
I
Howland
think
Road Trotters?
wasn't former Commissioner Tomarello's action plan involved.
Yeah, I think.
Did his own
Sheriff
action.
Don't
and
tell
Jeff
fishing
have all Offered to take care of the Meadowlark for us as well.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's all we've been talking about up to this point is we don't hay before August 1st. We'll report if we find any other endangered species. We'll allow Audubon to come on property to verify that the nests are empty and so on and so forth. It's just to sort of codify it, put it in the agreement, and I'll bring it to you guys next week for a
Okay.
vote, if you please.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then, GMP, I had a couple of conversations this week with Mark McLaughlin. He's been getting, some pushback from especially his biggest vendors. They're asking for a couple more weeks. He feels like he can get us a much more competitive price if we give him a couple more weeks to bring forward the GMP. I don't have an objection to it.
Okay.
Once we have a vendor on board, a change order is gonna cost us a lot more than a competitive price would at the beginning, so I don't think a couple of weeks is gonna hurt us in the schedule, and we do think it promises to save us a lot of money. I just wanted to let you know
Yeah.
that that's where we are with that.
Well, that makes sense to me. We're gonna
I-
save money.
Fully support just doing it thoroughly at the front end
Yeah.
and then not having hiccups later.
Okay,
Specifically with regards to the GMP,
yes,
I have no problem with it being delayed coming to us.
Okay.
It's to our advantage.
I think so.
I want to make, it's the most important document in the contract at this point, because it's got to do with all the money that we're gonna spend. I'd like to have a couple weeks, once we receive the GMP, I'd like the commissioners to at least have 2 weeks to, review it, before we are asked to sign this GMP.
I don't have a problem as long as, will it delay anything?
Before we make I don't think it makes sense to make a decision at this moment, how much time we need with it. So
Yeah.
why don't we get the document? Look at it, figure out if we're able to go through it with relative ease, there's no sense saying we need 2 weeks now. Why don't we look at it and then we can have an email discussion? We can decide collectively among the board how much time we need to bring
Yeah.
it to a vote, and then we'll make it then. I mean, just
Okay.
seems prudent.
long as we have time to absorb some of it, because it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as Commissioner Godu mentioned, it's very a likely thing. It's a big money piece, so.
Mhm.
But we can have further discussion.
And it's also like, if we get it on a Wednesday versus a Friday,
Right.
you know, it's so like, before we say, we define how many, you know,
Sure.
board meetings we wait, let's
Yeah,
figure out,
and then we may decide that you have another little workshop.
yeah.
And try to get, you know what I'm saying? But we'll figure that part of
Yeah,
it.
whatever the board wishes.
Okay.
But it seems to make sense to like. get the-
Extension, everybody's okay with a couple of weeks extension,
So-
it's gonna save money.
Are you saying a couple weeks after? So the initial
Do they?
thought was it was gonna be at the end of March, early April.
Yeah, he's
Is
talking
targeting-
specifically about having all of his vendors get the pricing to him by the 13th or 14th.
Oh.
And having the GMP to the board by the 20th.
Okay, so it's only like a little over 2 weeks extension. Okay,
And it seems like it will potentially save us some meaningful money. And I mean,
I'm
that's
all for
all
that.
of our objectives.
right. The other thing is, I mean, just in response to something you were saying, it's like with the new PFAS standard, it's like the moving of the well might, you know,
Yes.
end up being
Could
the
help.
blessing in the in disguise in
Yes, it's
terms
for
of,
our sources at the drill yard up behind the jail and the wastewater treatment facility, the regional fire training school was held up there. And when they first started testing for PFAS, those were the highest numbers in the state. Because they had been doing it for years.
Yeah, the
And
firefighter phone.
there's a fire pond that, you know, it's saturated with the field and so on. So we've been following that for years now under the guidance of DES. And moving the well further away gets it further away from the potential source of PFAS. We have had presence noted in both well number 2 and well number 3, but it's been below the standards, and to get further away is certainly a target.
so, yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, we might have been at this issue down the road with the new
Yeah.
standards, so it's like,
Right,
you know, a little extra cost now is like
for sure.
preemptively striking, if you will.
And there may be infrastructure funding available for PFAS mitigation. I'm hoping Chuck and I will be able to coordinate something with his new grant writer. There are a couple of webinars coming up on that as well.
yeah,
That,
definitely.
you know, I want to get on board with just to see what we can do.
Very good.
That's all I have
That was,
today.
that was a lot today,
I
Jude.
know. I
It's
apologize.
great,
Thank
you don't have to, it's wonderful, thank you.
All right,
for
Robin,
communicating.
you're not gonna get away without saying anything.
Not much today.
Oh,
We are taking steps to have TikTok blocked from all the networks in the county so that we will not have access. There's a lot of moving parts for a lot of different systems,
I'm
so but
sure.
we are working on that, work with Allison on the policy to, you know, ensure that we think we have the wording correct and exactly what we're looking to convey. Continue to do cybersecurity training. We're at 77% complete for those that
are you looking
not.
at, why are you looking at me
we
like
would
that?
encourage them to be completed.
I know, I gotta finish mine.
Did you do yours?
I try to do mine at like 3 o'clock in the morning and my eyes are like, I'm like, I can't finish this. right
All the guilty ones we carried out. So working on that, I have my new desktop tech that started on Monday. So we're just, you know, kind of getting them familiar with our environment, you know, to take a bit, and we're moving forward with that, and budget as well as everybody else.
Awesome, great. Chuck, did I already go through you or?
No.
No, go ahead, Chuck.
No. So I'll try to be brief for the normal, but,
Okay.
so again, as was mentioned, I think we had a good budget workshop session.
Oh,
Um,
we're frozen on the screen,
all the others.
yeah, or they're,
Oh. It's on the whole camera that's not.
You're on mute.
How's it now? Okay?
Good.
All right, Chuck, go ahead.
Okay, I guess for the third time saying it anyways, we had a good productive budget workshop the other day. I did save down as far as what we call like the share file or share drive. I did save down the munis budget central entry inspections. And also the same kind of year-end, or not year-end, but the budget document we went over as well. So that's over in that location under the shared drive under budget in FY 2024. You'll see now on that same location that there's individual folders for each department too. So if you don't want to try to attach your support to the lines directly in Munis when you're doing your budget, you can just save down your documents to the shared drive into your department's budget folder. One thing I did forget to mention, and maybe I don't say it because it doesn't apply to all the departments, but obviously those departments that have revenue lines, I think we have those available as well for you to enter numbers in. If you don't see those, just let me know. If you're not seeing those revenue lines, please just get to me what your best estimates are for revenue. Obviously for some departments, you know, I'm definitely gonna reach back out, whether it's LTC or maybe go over some things with Sheriff's Office or Kathy. Obviously yours can be really, you know, subject to fluctuation based on market and other, you know, pressures going on, like interest rates. But that's one thing that, you know, I'll make sure I incorporate for next year's presentation. Again, the deadline is March 31st, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We'll walk basically folks out of entering stuff. The idea is that by the early part of the week following, the department proposed budget, I'll work with Layla to get posted on the website. Basically, Adobe versions will go out to all the departments and the commissioners as well. And then we can start getting to work on, you know, the following week or 2 weeks or whatever to really get going with meetings with the commissioners as far as departments, as far as budget workshop sessions, whether they're on the Thursday BOC meetings or other days. The goal that I'd like to hit is that by around April 25th, the commissioners' proposed budget, the numbers, everything's been voted on and done for each department. And that hopefully on the 26th, which is a Wednesday, the commissioners' budgets will go out to all the members of the delegation, all 36 towns, city of Portsmouth, also DRA, Secretary of State. And then this is what I'm picturing, because we still have that deadline too for the commissioners to have your public hearing.
Right.
On the budget, is that May 4th, to me, would be the time, that's a Thursday. Would be a target date for the commissioners to host their public hearing on the proposed budget. I would just recommend, just like we've heard from New Hampshire CDFA, that they would want that meeting to be later, so the public hearing to allow more public access. May be that we don't get much attendance. I mean, not even the city of Portsmouth attends anymore since Hanko retired. There are formal ones that from the municipalities that would actually attend.
Yeah.
But again, if it's held a little bit later, like after,
Yeah,
if the
that's
board
fine.
meeting was in the afternoon, then the public hearing,
That makes sense.
then that would, you know, be great. Right now from my hearing from Cheryl Curley is at the third quarter budget review. The executive committee is gonna be the next day, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. And obviously what they might discuss as well are because there's 7 new members of the executive committee that they might start discussing right then and there as far as scheduling out subcommittee meetings. And again, they're generally gonna be the Mondays and Fridays, the bookend days of the week when they're not in session in Concord.
Right.
So I'm expecting 2 weeks of, you know, obviously a lot of compressed subcommittee meetings. I would expect probably salary subcommittee might be the last or one of the last ones that they will have. And that one may or may not be on a Monday or Friday.
So
Yeah, that's Jess Edwards, right, heading that up, so.
maybe we should,
No, it's somebody else.
It's switched.
I have it.
Sally,
hard.
Pacelli? I
Yeah.
thought it was Jess Edwards.
Is it
Jess
Jeff?
is here?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
it is
it's Jeff.
just switched to it.
Yeah,
It was John Petruchak, but
yeah, right. So, you know,
If I recall.
depending on the legislators' calendar, typically when they get through their bills and then they have crossover, they usually have a little bit more time because they get through most of the House bills and they're just waiting for the Senate bills to come over, and the Senate bills are not as much as the House bills. And we'll see how this schedule goes.
yeah, and so after that, I would foresee that, you know, the subcommittee presentation would be probably somewhere around I think like the last Wednesday or second to last Wednesday, 24th, I think, of May, that'd be on a Wednesday. And then I would picture maybe that on the Friday, there would be, basically the proposed executive committee budget, which basically really subcommittee.
Yeah,
Because the executive committee will vote on the subcommittee proposed budget, and that's our first version of the executive committee budget. And then probably June 7th would be the public hearing that's run by the executive committee for their proposed budget.
Right.
They'll hold the public hearing first, then they'll have their executive committee meeting to vote if they're gonna do any changes. Whether it's to budget amounts or to resolutions. Then from there, after that, we'll have the executive committee proposed budget, the final version, like, again, will go out to everyone if there's any updates. And then right now, again, normally it's like, the third or fourth Wednesday, so that'd be, June 21st. Right now is my estimated date for the overall delegation meeting to vote on the budget.
okay.
So, just,
So-
sorry, laying it all
So
out
you're
there.
No,
basically
no,
saying
no,
the next
very
3 or 4
helpful.
months, we're
Thank
gonna be
you.
busy, okay.
I've already kind of discussed on the calendar thoughts with Cheryl Hurley. She seems to be in agreement
Okay,
right now,
good,
and it
good.
follows right along, just again, descripting
Exactly.
what we did last year, moving basically backwards because of how the calendar moves.
Yeah,
Right.
So where last year, June 22nd was approval and passage of the budget. This year, if you kept the same Wednesday, it's gonna be the 21st.
Okay.
So,
very good.
yeah, so we have, so there's an estimated calendar out there.
As a housekeeping matter, we have a little bit of time, but just for the commission or everybody out, the commissioners as well as department heads. Do we want to move, if we're doing late meetings on the 4th for our public meeting? Do we want to, think about moving the commissioners meeting to later in the day?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes sense.
we have this, we can talk about it
Yeah,
in time,
yeah.
but I'm just priming the pump.
Yeah,
I have a
Commissioner
question.
Godu, yes.
When do we get to look at the budget that the department heads have submitted?
So what happens is it'd be hard for us to get a nice clean Adobe version like folks are used to on that same Friday, because 31st of March is that Friday. I'd be hoping on the Monday, the following Monday, it could be saved down, put on the website.
April 3rd?
That's my goal.
And how much time do we have? How much time do the commissioners have with that budget once we get that?
Well, basically, again, I was hoping that by, I think it's Tuesday, the 25th, that final numbers.
So we have about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah.
usually we have an opportunity to bring what we do is have a working session
Right.
with each department head to come in, go over their budget, explain it. So I anticipate we'll do those same working sessions too.
And the commissioners even beforehand will have detailed binders.
Right.
With supporting information from each department.
Yeah, no, that's
It'll
good.
be
We got
tabbed
3
and
weeks to
everything.
review. That's fine.
And you'll
I
have
just wanna be
electronic,
sure.
so that's the goal too, is that off this shared drive, you'll have even the support electronically. So if you wanna look over, the detailed support, it'll be there. Because you're not gonna wanna have unless you're toting around the binder, you're not gonna wanna separately print out all
No,
the
I
support pages.
want electronic. for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, all right, thanks, Chuck. I know, Jason Henry's got a couple of things that he forgot, so I'm gonna let him come back in. Jason.
Thank you. Just one thing with the calendar, maybe at some point, because the delegation is not so good of sharing information when all these meetings are, if somebody could put together a calendar for all the department heads, as I've,
Yeah.
in a couple of years, I found that I'm scrambling, trying to find some of this stuff. That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Two things. Just so the commissioners know, Mr. Chair, you were there, but myself and probably Ross Cunningham from Merrimack County are gonna be probably appointed to the retirement board. So I have to send some stuff to the governor of my resume and stuff. And just so everybody's aware, that there is a bill out there, Chuck and I probably have to testify to, where somebody put in, they want OSHA to apply to all municipalities and all counties, all OSHA standards. So, I'm representing the superintendents, Chuck's gonna be doing, administrators, a bunch of us have to go testify. I will probably talk to Jude some more, and Officer Evans here is all OSHA certified as well too. I may be dragging him along with me, but that could have huge impacts if it passes. But so we have a lot of people testifying and to not let it pass.
You what?
We follow OSHA
Yes.
standards already.
Yeah, building and maintenance already follows it,
Follows OSHA.
but if this has a wide effect, we'll keep our eyes open on that.
I'm testifying as well.
Kathy too as well. I couldn't remember. Thanks, Kathy.
All right, it looks like we have the 18 months. for that, so-
Just
Jason,
with OSHA requirements, there's additional reporting measures that has to be met for health safety and for employee reporting for healthcare organizations under OSHA guidelines. So that will add additional work onto our current workload, just as an FYI. So just wanted to let you know.
so I think this is probably, obviously it affects us and we should be thinking about it, but also NHAC because it's it affects all 10 counties.
Jason,
So-
David Ross, I believe, is testifying and all that. He's got a good
That is
handle. on
correct.
it as well. Yeah.
That's
so.
correct.
Well, thank you, Jason and Kathy.
All right, I'm gonna ask if Leila has anything she wants to share. Is there anything going on that we need to know about?
We're getting our printer today.
We got a new printer?
Oh, that's exciting.
Ooh, where's that going?
Over on, yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. What happened to the old one? It crapped out? Or-
No, because we're over.
Oh,
Yes,
it's brand new because of
New
remove of the
because
move.
of the
It's a new
new, yeah.
copier that we
Okay.
added to the Toshiba.
All right,
Will
excellent.
we be able to, I assume we'll be able to, yeah, networking. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you, of course. Thank you to Leila and Robin.
Anything else, Leila?
That's it.
We're
That's
good.
exciting.
All right. We are going to, we're going to new business, old business. Anyone have any new business? Commissioner Godu?
I'd like to bring up a couple of issues, based on our workshop last week regarding the building. My first concern is our budget. I presented a budget that I believe is, what we should be having in reserve and available. And my concern about going over the budget at this point, I understand that it is an estimate, but my concern is that we earmark enough money so that we're not caught short in any way. I've come up with $87 million as the amount of money that I think that we should have appropriated. And that includes a $4,155,000 county contingency to bring us to $87 million. Of course, I would hope that we wouldn't spend any of that contingency, but my concern is that we are planning in advance to make sure that we have money to cover this project, but this has already increased from what we were planning on previously.
So, do you have a copy of his budget?
I don't,
Did you send that? I
I
mean,
sent it a couple of times. I sent
I'm
it
sure I don't have.
last week,
to.
and well, maybe Chuck can comment on it. Chuck has received it as well.
It's a preemptive, I mean, this is just a housekeeping matter, but it would be helpful to us if you, I mean, this was something you knew you were gonna put on, that we put this on on the agenda. You know, if we're gonna have, you want to have these discussions, then I think the proper way to do it is put it under the commissioner's office
That's the
as a topic header, just going forward, because it'd be helpful to all of us, I think, if we hadn't had the, oh, I do have this, you know, knew you want to talk about it or what your issues are, so we can be prepared for it, so. Just as a courtesy, it'd be helpful going forward,
All right,
but, I mean,
so, all right, so we've got that. There's a lot of moving pieces in there because, I believe, and I haven't looked at it yet, but you're including the solar piece into that 87, correct?
Correct. We started out with $67 million, which was the budget from February of 22. That did not include the $10 million for the solar farm at the time, so it was really $76 million that was being earmarked for this project. And we're up another $11 million based on the research and work that I've done that we ought to have set aside. I just want to make sure we have enough money set aside to make sure this project happens.
And you've given your budget to Chuck, right? Because I know, I mean, this is Chuck's job as CFO. So, Chuck, have you got his budget?
Yeah.
and part of it is up because, so there's, our 67 is the solar, which we already knew about, and then you're saying there's an additional 10.5 is the one amount that you just added in. Or maybe it's 4.
Yeah,
You put a different place 5, so it's not clear. In your notes, you listed here as 4, but in your notes, I think you listed it at 5.1. That's correct there. My,
I mean, if we need time to review this, I
Yeah.
figured that you guys already reviewed it.
No,
But if
I
we
have.
need more time, then
Yeah.
that's fine. I just want to make sure that we've earmarked enough money for the project.
I think,
I
I
agree,
think
but
everybody's
we
on the
should-
same page. I don't think anyone wants to spend any more extra money that we don't have to.
and make
So-
sure we have enough. I agree. I've been, but I think that, I mean, I think you're right to say, listen, we want to make sure we have enough money. My concern is we're working with data, we're working with numbers like fictitious, not fictitious entirely, but somewhat unclear numbers because we don't have the.
No, this is an estimate, and it's an
So-
estimate based on Harvey's
Right.
budget to us, their estimate of a budget. Obviously, the GMP is going to supersede all of this work.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna get the GMP until the 20th of April.
Right.
That's 20 days past what I thought we were gonna get it. And again,
Okay, we can digest this and we'll have more discussion.
Okay.
All right, did you have something else?
the other issue I had from our discussion was that there was $225,000 in Harvey's contract for independent testing. That Jonathan said that from Warren Street said that he his intention was that Harvey put that in just as a placeholder, but that was going to get billed directly, whatever that turns out to be. And again, the GMP will clarify it. It will come directly to the county. But there were several other items that were also involved testing and inspections that were under Warren Street's agreement. And actually, it was specifically excluded from called out as excluded from Warren Street's agreement. It came up to about $540,000, which they would be adding 10% to if they manage it. And if we manage it ourselves, we sell it, say, $54,000. So my question is, are we going to pursue managing those inspections directly? Or are we gonna expect Warren Street to do it and pay them $54,000?
I recall a question that we had in our workshop that was similar. I don't know if I'm mixing it up, but there was a reason why we wanted all of this stuff to be done by Harvey. Do you recall that
And
conversation?
well, part of the issue, as I see it, is you're talking, it's a little nebulous what you're speaking about. And if you had more, perhaps you can come back to the table with more specifics about
I have-
which,
I'm sorry.
you said there's $500,000. I'm having trouble following you for lack of specifics.
Okay.
However, may I finish first?
Yeah.
Okay, but to Commissioner Chiricello's point, I think we need to, there's the specifics that we need to get into, but also your question seems to be, with respect to those specifics, the board wants to make a decision about whether we want to have the oversight, have it handled by Warren Street or take it on ourselves.
That is right. And I don't know what those exact numbers are.
All right, well,
Miller Engineering, $140,000. Another Miller Engineering for $80,000 for materials and sequence testing. The Warren Street called out in their contract a list of items that they thought were customary and necessary, potentially necessary. And they said it wasn't part of the contract, and if they included it, it would be 10% extra. It's all got to do with testing and inspections. And well, it's a lot of money. And it's just a question. How are we planning to manage this portion? I don't know if Jude might have some opinion on how we ought to manage it, because if it's by the county, it's gonna, sit in your lap to manage. So I don't know, maybe that's what my questions are.
Okay.
So, did you
I
want to
can-
say anything at all, Jude?
I can speak, I'd
Go ahead.
love to, which is, I think to your point, Commissioner Churchill, there was some discussion about this. And essentially, there's a benefit to having Warren Street, who is managing this aspect, handled the aspect of the inspections. As well, I mean, obviously Jude's going to be working with, you know, Jonathan and Rob or Mark hand in hand. However, for continuity of care, consistency, as well as, I mean, this is why we outsource, so that we can have the, you know, individuals on the ground.
Yeah.
Making sure that the inspection process goes seamlessly. So there's Mark, I understand your concern is like you're identifying 54,000, right? I anticipate there are other places, and I think I used sort of the example of, yeah, well, we can save if we install the floors ourselves or do other, you know, there are lots of places, you know, where if you do it yourself, you can save money, but in the overall picture of what we're trying to achieve and how we want it managed, I feel comfortable having Warren Street.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did have part of that discussion in there, and obviously there's pros and cons to going either way, obviously. Similar to the solar side of things, you know, we could have done it ourselves, but then we would have had some duplication of different permitting and whatnot. That kind of seemed like a waste of money there. That's why we just kind of put it under one tent. And we got it done that way. So they're really depending on the testing and all that stuff. I mean, I'll do more research. I think everybody's ultimate goal is to get this down as much as possible. Once we get the hard numbers, you know, we can sit there, and I think I may have discussed this with you at at the end of one of the other meetings. It's, you know, some of the money gets out of hand, or we can't, you know, it gets too high. You know, we can always scale back stuff. That's not a problem. Or we can find money somewhere else. There's many options for us as commissioners, but.
So I have two concerns with this area. The first one is saving $54,000. But more importantly than that is that these are all inspections that we're inspecting the work that's being done by Warren Street and Harvey.
Right.
And it just seems more appropriate that the county would be in direct contact with the people who were doing the inspectors, rather than having the inspectors have to report to the person's work that's being inspected.
Okay.
It offers some independence. And I believe that's part of the reason why Warren Street didn't include it in their original, in fact, specifically excluded it. When you read their contract, these items are not included in their contract, and will cost the so it's the independence of that testing in addition to the savings.
Okay, so Jude.
I'll be happy to look into it, Commissioner. I think in some cases, the testing is actually. And rather than having my coordinating when they pull samples and who delivers it to the lab and things like that, it's clearly independent. It goes out to a lab. The inspections, we, as a general rule, participate in the inspections on an ongoing basis, whether it's with, the fire marshal's office or the fire department, sometimes will come in, or whomever. We actively participate in the inspections, but the testing is not conducted by Harvey or Warren Street. It all goes out independently, and the results come to me. And
Well,
I
if
don't
it goes,
coordinate it being done, but I get the results come to the owner.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say who pulls what sample and when there's ready to be a core pulled out of this particular, bit of masonry work or what have you. But they do the coordination, they ship it to the labs, whichever is the most appropriate. And then the results come to the owner. But there could also be areas, that it would make sense for us to take on, and I'm happy to look into that.
And just on a side, one of the things you identify is wetlands permitting and mitigation fees. They're not getting, and that's $250,000. They're not getting 10% on the mitigation fee. Like on the.
you're gonna get $25,000 extra on top of the $250,000 that it's gonna cost us to.
Not for the mitigation.
Well,
They're not collecting on, they're putting that as the cost, but they're not collecting 10% on the mitigation fee. So
That's what their contract said.
All right, so,
This comes right out of Warren Street
I'm
contract.
just,
all right,
okay.
so we're gonna do some deeper dives and find out more information, because there's a lot of information. There could be different interpretations, you know, we just gotta, we'll get all these straight answers.
And lastly, I really do think I'm gonna need 2 weeks to review the GMP. Before I'll be prepared to vote on it.
Well, let me ask, well, that's fine. Jude, does that tie up any time?
I think it's gonna depend on where the permitting falls. So, I mean, if the permits are in place, they'll be ready to break ground
Yeah,
So,
because
immediately.
I've said all along, I mean, for the last 2 years, my biggest concern is delays. And we're gonna risk half of the building money that we have in opera money. And I'm not going there because the last thing that I wanna do is get stuck and then have the taxpayers pay $25 million that they weren't expecting to pick up. So that's my priority,
and if,
no
it-
delays.
and if it causes us to, you know, maybe we have to come in for 2 days,
I don't-
days,
yeah,
and that's
I-
what I mean. We might just
Fine with
have
that
to
too.
consolidate the efforts to work on it, which I, you know, listen to your,
Yeah.
happy to do.
Yeah, because those are tight deadlines, you know, using opera money and having them set aside and ready to go, because I know Chuck, you report on those, so.
But
Yeah,
perhaps,
but the well issue took a little bit of time, which, you know, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
And those things are to be expected, it's just, you know, as we get tighter and tighter,
Mhm.
I get a little nervous, so.
but let's wait and see when, like,
Well,
how,
yeah.
like, what we need, if you need additional information, what
Right.
day we achieve it, we get it, like, there's
It's
so
sort
many
of like you have to
variables.
do, you know, you have to get to A, to get to B, you have to get A first, then C. It has to be a straight line. To try to get information hodgepodge is just, it's a, you know, an exercise in driving people crazy, you
The only
know?
other thing that occurs to me, Commissioner, if I may, I seem to recall them saying that they get multiple quotes. And that, the quotes are only good for a certain period of time, just like when we go out to RFP, the vendors agree to only hold their pricing for a certain period of time. So I don't know if that's gonna be an issue as well,
Well, that's gonna be a concern of mine.
because if they're supposed to have their quotes no later than the 13th. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just may be a factor. I remember somebody mentioning that when we met.
Okay,
How
all
long they're open for, yeah.
right, very good. Was there anything else on the new business?
Nope.
That's a score, you're all set?
Yes.
Okay, so we're done there. I'm gonna ask for public comment if there's anybody in the public. I don't think there are, but I'm just gonna ask. Nobody in the public, okay. So we are gonna go into non-public. I wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. And thank you, everybody, for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I move to enter into oh wait, Allison, do you have something before we go into
I
non-public?
did want to ask for non-public and I'm sorry.
Oh, we have a
Okay, we're going.
So don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
I move to enter into non-public pursuant to 91A:3 regarding personnel matters. I know at least one. So,
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded, on the motion, Mr. Coyle?
yes,
Mr. Godu?
yes.
And I vote yes. We're gonna take a couple minute break here and then we're gonna go into.
And I'm-
non-public.
gonna invite Superintendent Henry and
Okay,
Allison
Okay.
Chbukowski.
very good.
All right, I move to seal the minutes indefinitely because there's ongoing personnel issues that we're not sure when will come to a conclusion.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor say aye. That's unanimous.
I think we need a roll call
Roll call.
vote for that.
Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
and I move to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Here's my gavel.